Hey, it's Christina the caregiver. I am making a bouquet of flowers to bring to my mother's grave. A lot of you know I took care of my mom for 10 years after she had a massive stroke. I was with her 24/7. And I was with her on her journey during hospice. I was with her the day she had her stroke. The day she had her stroke, I got a call at 3:42 p.m. It was March 16th of 2013. And I had talked to her that morning. We had a fun conversation. She told me about how she had gone to the movies with a friend, and I was telling her about a mouse that I found in my brand spanking new car. And my longtime boyfriend at the time was trying to get it out. So we were laughing, and I said, "Okay, Mom, call you back later." I went out. I went shopping with my personal trainer that day, because then I could afford a personal trainer. We were in the grocery store and I got the call. I drove to Seattle. It was raining. It was about a 3-hour drive. It was dark. I was scared because they told me they didn't expect my mother to live. When I walked in, she was on life support. They said they didn't think she was gonna make it. They gave her 1% chance to live because the stroke was so severe. And so we waited. When they finally took her off life support, which was 12 days later, she had bled out for 12 days. And they finally took her off of life support. She couldn't talk. She was paralyzed from the neck down. Clearly very confused. You see, my mom, she was an aerospace engineer. Very independent woman. As a matter of fact, the week before her stroke, she was laying hardwood floor in her house by herself. Her huge house that she lived in by herself. And very smart woman. One day, that morning, after we talked, later that afternoon, she passed out. She hit her head on the arm of the couch. She had a massive stroke. In a matter of just minutes, her life changed. Every year for Mother's Day, I would make sure she had a special Mother's Day after her stroke. Now, to be honest with you, before her stroke, for many years, we didn't have the best of relationship because my mother was my abuser growing up. And so we didn't have a bunch of great Mother's Days. We had them when I was tiny. We had a bunch of great Mother's Days. And then they got different. But as I was her caregiver, I always made sure she had a wonderful Mother's Day because frankly, walking in and seeing my mother on life support, I didn't know if I'd ever see her again, and I wasn't going to let a minute go by without letting her know that she was valued and important, and I was grateful that she was my mother. So each Mother's Day, there would be flowers. A lot of times flowers for her garden because she loved to garden even from her wheelchair, which she, after the stroke, was not able to walk. And so she was in a wheelchair for the rest of her life and paralyzed on the right side for the rest of her life. So sometimes I would buy her flowers for her garden. Sometimes I would take her to Home Depot, which was like one of her favorite places, and let her pick out flowers for her garden. Take them home and help her garden that day. Sometimes I would buy her decorations for her garden. But she always got fresh flowers too. But now, she passed away December 28th of 2022. It was November 23rd, my birthday of 22. It was, can't remember if Thanksgiving was the day before or day after. My birthday's always on Thanksgiving. Look at these flowers, she would love these. We were in the hospital because she had been declining. And I said, Mom, let's go to the hospital one more time. Her other leg, her left side, had given out on her. She couldn't get out of bed anymore. I said, let's try one more time, Mama. One more time. And we went to the hospital, and what the doctor said to me was, your mother is actively dying. And I said, I know. And it was then we made the choice to go on hospice. So it was me and my mom, Team Mom, which it was 99.9% of the time through that 10 years. Except for occasionally family would come. Occasionally I would bring her to family, and I had hired caregivers that would help. And I went and I got us a meal from a local diner called Sherry's here, a Thanksgiving meal. And we shared our last Thanksgiving meal together in that hospital with plastic forks out of plastic trays. And we said, they give you 1% chance to live. You weren't supposed to make it out of that ICU in 2013. And here we are today in 2022. And Mama, I'm gonna be with you to walk you home. We left that hospital on hospice, and we had a beautiful hospice journey. It was during Christmas. There was no Christmas tree. There was no decorations. There was no presents. My mother was in an end-of-life coma the last week of her life, and December 28th, I had given her comfort meds as directed during the night, and I came down and I'd given her last dose at 5 o'clock, and I waited with her by her side, and I kept talking to her even though she couldn't talk and she hadn't opened her eyes or talked in a week. I kept talking to her, and I was exhausted. I hadn't barely slept in a week because I knew at any minute she was gonna die. And I thought, I'm gonna go upstairs, I'm gonna rest for a minute. And then the hired caregiver came in because I wanted more caregivers during that time because I wanted to be a daughter, not a caregiver. She came in at 9, and I said, let me check on my mom. And I walked in and I said, Mama. And she was no longer breathing. And I walked out and I told the caregiver, please call hospice and tell them my mother's passed. I need a minute. And I sat in there with my mom and I laid with her, even though she had passed. And they came and they took mom away, and as they were wheeling her out, I asked for 1 minute. As she was on the gurney, and I said one last prayer. One last prayer with her. I said, Mama, this will be the last time you leave the house. So now today, that was December 28th of 2022. So now today, on all the holidays, I do just what I used to do when I was caring for her. Is I bring her flowers. So today, this is her flower arrangement that's going on her gravesite. And I bring her 8x10 picture. And I sit by the grave and I have a talk with her. And I hope today, as she's in heaven, that God lets her know that while I was growing up, she might not have been the mom that I wish she was. She might not have been the moms that they portray on TV, but she was the perfect mom that I was supposed to have and that God had picked out for me. And I am so grateful that she is who I got to have the journey with as mother and daughter. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.